Okay, so I am 28 years old. I am in the prime of my life, and I have no friends. But that's actually okay. So let's talk about it. I think high school is a really good place to start because I think that's where it all starts for a lot of people and where it all ends for a lot of people. You make a lot of friends in high school and then you go your separate ways, and I was no different. But during high school, I was kind of the guy that was good with everybody and at the same time being friends with nobody. So I would go to sleepovers and hang out with people, and it was really nice because I would show up to parties, and a lot of different people would be hyped that I was there, and that's really nice. But I never established like a long-term friendship with any specific group. Like I hung out with everybody, like the goth kids, the nerds, the jocks, the popular kids, like literally everybody. So I got a taste of everything, but in that quest for getting to know everybody, it was extremely lonely because, again, there was no long-term relationship with anybody. Then really the closest group that I got to was the skaters because I like to skate, I like to snowboard, I like to do all of that. But after high school, the direction that group of people was going, I didn't want to go in. So I didn't follow them. I carved out my own path. I tried the school thing for a little bit. I went to school for aerospace engineering. I didn't really like it, so I stopped doing that, moved back home for a little bit, and then shortly after moved out to Colorado and started working. Now, in your professional life, you definitely meet a lot of people, and a lot of people are buddy-buddy with you, but coworkers really, in the end, are not friends. And that's true in most cases. I only have one exception. There are two people that I still really care about. One of them I met at work. The other one I grew up with, but unfortunately I wouldn't consider them traditional friends because we don't hang out. One lives 2,000 miles away from me, and the other one lives 3,000 miles away from me. And unfortunately, we don't talk. So in that, work really hasn't been successful for me in making friends. And now we're kind of getting up to the timeline of 2020, and everybody knows what happened in 2020. And it affected the whole world. However, it affected me in a very different way. Not only did I have to deal with what was going on in the world, but I actually sustained a very serious brain injury in 2020 that I am still recovering from. I'm about 90% recovered, but I still do have symptoms. Like a good example would be a cinematic that I was doing the other day. You can notice that I really can't stay still. I had a lot of motor problems, and I was disabled for pretty much 3 years because of that. It used to be a lot worse. Now it's a lot better, but obviously because of something like that, I actually had to move back to my home state to be closer to family, really further isolating me from anything. So any of those buddies I met at work were no longer there because I was across the country, and everybody from high school had gone their own way, and no offense to any of them, but I just have no interest in reconnecting with any of those people if they are around. And I would say I know better than a lot of people what it means to be isolated, because at the beginning of 2020, everything happened with the world and my medical condition, and I've been isolated ever since. But that isolation has taught me a great deal of things, and most of them are very positive. During those years, I really could have tried to establish new connections, and I actually did kind of half try a couple of times and just gave up. So I really chose the lifestyle that I'm currently living. I'm not sure what it is about society today, if it's the meteorical rise of social media and working from home and other isolating activities like that, or if it's just me as a person, but I actually really enjoy being alone. However, if you look online, you can find a lot of similar videos to this one. And what I'm really hoping with this type of video is to reach an audience who may be in my situation and may be really struggling with it, because I don't mind it, but there's a lot of really social people in society, and from the direction society has gone, it's really not favorable to them. So they could be struggling really bad. So if this video helps just one person, mission accomplished. What I've learned throughout these past 5 years is to really embrace myself and focus on becoming a better human being. I've really leaned into education a lot. I went back to school. I went online, but I got a bachelor's in neuroscience, and I took some other classes on top of that as well. So I actually have gone to school for much more than 4 years. It's been a total of about 7 if you count the first 2 years that I spent in aerospace engineering and all of my online degree. I just absolutely love learning any type of information, and even in my free time, if I'm watching YouTube, which I certainly do a lot of that content is educational content. And I find learning to be really rewarding, because if someone doesn't know something and they need help and you have that information and you can give that information to them, that's a really rewarding experience. So another thing that I've done with the education, especially my neuroscience background, is I started volunteering at a nursing home. And I teach brain health classes, and I also teach classes on alleviating hand arthritis, so special exercises that you can do with your hands a couple of times a week to help alleviate some pain, because that is rampant at that age group. That type of experience has been really rewarding too. So none of these experiences have involved friends at all, but I've been able to find a good deal of fulfillment just on my own through these activities. And I think a lot of people would look at a video like this and go, how would you possibly not go insane or get cabin fever? And really, that's how I do it. And not only do I do it that way, but I like doing it that way. And as far as a career goes, what I was doing professionally before was construction project management, and that was in the field a lot. So obviously, if you move away, if you decide to make a big life change, you can't do that remotely. So you'd have to find a new job at another company or find a remote job. And instead of doing anything traditional, I found work with myself, doing media through things like this. And also how I make the bulk of my income is I day trade. And that's gone very successfully the past couple of years, and I've been able to build a good life for myself with that. Now, to get into that, I needed some money, so I did save up a good amount of money from my professional career before I left it. But I think after that experience in the professional world, I was ready to never return to that again. I think a corporate lifestyle is soul-sucking. You know, I started at a very small company. I ended at a Fortune 250, huge company, way high up, and it was just soul-sucking. And this is even at the level, like they say, you know, you're just a number at a corporation. Like, I was high enough to not be just a number, and it was still just as bad. And another thing is, at that level, there are a lot of sociopaths at that level, and there's a lot of taking advantage of each other and backstabbing to get promotions, and it's just a very ugly environment. And unless you are really at like the executive level, you don't actually make that much money. Like, I made a good amount of money there, but I was in a city, so the cost of living was really high. But making the change from that type of lifestyle, because I was obviously either on a busy construction site or in a very big corporate office, to what I'm doing now, which is doing things completely on my own, even out of work. It was a big change, but I think it really improved my mental health. One of the reasons that I sustained the brain injury was because of the stress that I was enduring at work. I was experimenting with a doctor different ways to alleviate depression and anxiety, and I unfortunately had a really obscure reaction to one of these medications, and that is what caused that. And this time alone has made me realize that that world was absolutely not for me, and it was quite literally killing me. You know, like any brain injury patient, I didn't know I had a brain injury, and I found out by sitting on a couch just like this at my old place and standing up and literally collapsing because I had no feeling in my legs. It was a very terrifying experience, and I really attribute work to like 90% of that. Obviously, it was the medication that really did it, but work got me to the medication. So really spending some time alone and not hanging out with people on the regular or going and partying has given me so much time to reflect on myself and to figure out what I really want as a person for my life and what I want to do going forward. The isolation has actually been extremely beneficial to me. Now, would I take friends if they showed up at my door and they were loyal, trustworthy friends? Absolutely. Or if I happen to move back out to where I was, I would reconnect with those two people that I do like talking to. But just personally, I find myself being completely fine without any of that. And I used to think that that was so unorthodox in society, but from what I've seen online and how many videos are similar to this, it may not actually be that unorthodox. I saw an article the other day that cited 73% of Gen Z, which I'm a part of, reports having no friends. I think that's really contributing to the massive depression rate that we're seeing in that age group, not because they don't have friends, but because they had friends in the past or growing up, and now everybody's split apart, and they were used to living that life, and they're just having a lot of trouble adapting to this new style that we have as a society. Of course, a lot of people still do keep up with their friends, like my sister, who's a millennial. She still hangs out with people she met in high school, and that's totally okay too. But when you find yourself in a situation with no friends, what really needs to happen is you need to figure out how you can make yourself happy without that. Because the way I see society trending, this isn't going to get any better, and I feel like Generation Alpha will be even worse with this. Especially because the days are long gone where you'd go out with the neighborhood kids and play baseball in the street. I mean, those kids just hang out on their iPads in their free time. So I think when they exit high school, there's going to be college, which will be okay, but then after that, when they get into the professional world, really there's only the work friends, which I don't like calling them friends. Like I said, there is the one rare occurrence where you could meet a lifelong friend at work, but usually not. You know, when you leave that company, people don't talk to you anymore. The same people that were talking to you as friends and maybe you were even getting a beer with, you just can't count on that. So I think really my message in short would be, if you do have those established relationships where you can really count on someone and they're really loyal and you're really loyal to them, and if they call you at 3 a.m. needing your help, you'll be right over there, hold on to that. And if you don't have those relationships, any of them, that's okay. That's completely okay. And not only is it okay, it's not becoming that abnormal anymore. But with living that lifestyle, you do need to fill that void with other things, like I have with education and volunteering and other things like that. It's certainly a lot easier if you have an in-person job, but a lot of people are still working from home. And the statistics say that people are much more satisfied with work from working from home, but that can also come with negatives too if you're not doing anything else to fill that social void. So with that, I'm going to say keep your friends close, always keep learning, and stay safe. Thanks for watching.